Section 2.2 is on solving one-step equations. To solve an equation means to find the value of the variable that makes the equation true. Basically, we're going to be finding x. We need to turn the equation into x equals some number. To do that, we're going to use a couple properties of equality. The first one, I've actually combined the addition and subtraction properties together, and that basically says that you can add the same number to or subtract the same number from both sides of an equation and it remains true. So if I want to add 5 to one side of the equation, I have to add 5 to the other side. If I want to subtract 3 from one side, I have to subtract 3 from the other side. Let's use this to solve the next equation. So here we have the equation x minus 12 equals negative 28, and basically I want this side of the equation to have x all by itself. So what I need to do is get rid of this minus 12. To do that, I'm going to add 12 to each side of the equation, because when I have a negative 12 and a positive 12, they cancel each other out. That leaves me with x equals negative 27 plus 12, which gives me a negative 15. Now it says check your solution. To check if your solution is correct, you're going to take your answer and plug it back into the original equation. So since I came up with x equals negative 15, when I rewrite the equation, I'll put a negative 15 in for x minus 12. Is that equal to negative 27? Well, negative 15 minus 12 is equal to negative 27. So indeed, my answer does work. So my final answer is x equals negative 15. We also have the multiplication and division properties of equality, which say that you can multiply or divide both sides of an equation by the same number and the equation remains true. So if I want to multiply both sides by 5, I can do that. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. If I divide one side of the equation by 3, I have to divide the other side of the equation by 3 as well. Let's take a look at an example. Here I have the equation negative 1 3/8 times x equals 2/3. Now don't be thrown off by the fractions. First thing I want to do is to turn my mixed number here into an improper fraction. And remember, to do that, I'll do 8 times 1 and then add that to 3, and that gives me 11 over 8, and let's put the negative out front there, times x equals 2/3. So to get x, notice that x is being multiplied by a negative 11 over 8. To get rid of multiplying by negative 11 over 8, I want to divide by negative 11 over 8. But I really don't like dividing fractions. What I prefer to do is to multiply by the reciprocal. If I multiply both sides by a negative 8 over 11, over here my 11s will cancel out, my 8s will cancel out, and a negative times a negative gives me a positive, so I'll have x equals, and now just multiply across the top, negative 16 over 33. Now let's check this. To check this, I think I'm going to use the form of the equation that had negative 1 3/8 as an improper fraction. So to check, oops. So to check is negative 11 over 8x, I'm sorry, not x, negative 11 over 8, substitute in negative 16 over 33 for x. Is that equal to 2/3? So I can actually do some canceling here. This 8 will become a 1, negative 16 becomes a negative 2, 11 and 3, that will become a negative 1, and that will become a positive 3, and indeed that's going to leave me with a 2/3 equals 2/3. So yes, this solution does check, and my final answer is x equals negative 16 over 33. And my last example here is a word problem, and this says define a variable, write an equation, and then solve. By defining a variable, that means I need to write a let statement. I need to figure out what it is that I'm trying to find in the problem and assign a variable to that. So let's read the problem. Susan is driving to Memphis. If she drove 468 miles on the first day, which is 3/5 of her total distance, how far is it to Memphis? So to define my variable, I'm going to say let x equal, and you can choose whatever variable you like. And what am I trying to find? I'm trying to find how far it is to Memphis. So I'm going to say let x equal the distance to Memphis. Defining a variable is a very important part of solving a word problem because you can't just throw an x in there without telling me what x stands for. Now let's look at the problem again. So she drove a total of 468 miles on the first day, and that was 3/5 of the total distance to Memphis. So I can write the equation 3/5 times x, and that means 3/5 of the total distance to Memphis, and that's equal to 468 miles, which is what she drove the first day. Now to solve this, I'll use the multiplication property of equality, or division, and I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal here. So multiplying by 5/3, and on the left here my 3's will cancel, my 5's will cancel, and I'm left with x equals, and at this point I'm going to grab my calculator and do 468 times 5 divided by 3, and that gives me 780, and put your units on there, miles to Memphis. So in this lesson we looked at the addition and subtraction properties of equality and the multiplication and division properties of equality, and used those to solve one-step equations.